I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with the feeder flash for Monday, December the 16th, brought to you in part by Macrocin by Bimeda. Macrocin is proven efficacy at an affordable upfront price. To learn more about how Macrocin compared head-to-head with the Pioneer product on a big test of cattle, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards in Carthage, Missouri. Another big feeder cattle auction here today on Monday, starting at 6 o'clock in the morning. They're expecting about 8,000 head of feeder cattle and calves, including over 50 straight loads of yearling feeders. Don't miss that. You can see that on DVAuction.com. Take note, Joplin Regional Stockyards will be closed from December the 19th through December 27th. They won't have a Monday feeder cattle auction next Monday. They will have a big yearling special feeder cattle auction on December the 30th, after Christmas, but before New Year's. No cow sale on January the 1st, New Year's. Then they will be having a value-added special on Thursday, January the 2nd. So take note of that schedule. It's the last week of a record year. And you say, no, we got a little more time than that. No, we've got this week of business, and then we're pretty much done. There's not going to be a whole lot going on that week of Christmas, with Christmas landing on a Wednesday. You don't really want to be a day or two before, and you sure don't want to be a day or two after. And then you're going to be running so close to New Year's, like probably the sale I told you about, Joplin Regional Stockyard sale on Monday the 30th, will be one of the few opportunities to buy feeder cattle anyway through the holidays, through that 2-week span. Now, there will be several replacement sales. A lot of guys, you made money selling cattle this past year, and if you need to rebuild your herd, younging them up a little bit, or whatever you need to do, it's a good opportunity to do that and have it on this year's books. So there will be plenty of opportunities to buy replacements around the holidays, but not a lot of commercial feeder cattle will be selling after this week. But this past week, last week, all-time record highs were posted on many classes of feeder cattle, especially middleweight cattle weighing from 600 to 800 pounds, or kind of two-way cattle that feeder cattle are guys that are wanting to go right into the feedlot or buying. And then also you got people that are buying stocker cattle that heavy because the lighter weight stockers are so extremely high, and they're not scared putting those on winter forage and having them come out 900 to 1,100 pounds. That's not big anymore. And then going to the feedlot with them then, even if they want to sell them in a commercial sale barn, cattle weighing over 1,000 pounds sell really well now, where they didn't just a couple, 3 years ago. But the Pee-wee stockers were not as high last week, not as ridiculously high as they were the week before. But last week still selling really well, but not near those crazy highs that we set week before last. So we'd have to call them a little bit lower. And your fat cattle, they gained ground in the northern plains. The northern plains likely, and most fat cattle sellers would just as soon, if the southern plains isn't going to sell any more fat cattle than what they're selling, they would just soon get them out of the damn weighted average because they're dragging it down what few they're selling, because they don't have any leverage in the market anymore, so they can't gain much ground. The northern plains, I mean, they gained like $3 to $5 last week because they're selling cattle every week. Packers got to go to them, those farmer feeders and those independent feeders. They were in the driver's seat this past week, just gaining almost every day, gaining $1 or $2 there. And it was really great to see, especially this time of year. And that goes for the feeder cattle auctions too. This past year we've seen records at every single class of cattle. Of course, slaughter cows, I mean, they were all-time record highs. Our fat cattle, they're in the early summer. We saw them sell fat cattle, loads of them at $2 a pound. We didn't get the weighted average up there, but we got it in the upper 190s, so that was pretty good. Then we saw record feeder cattle and calf prices there last spring and in the early summer. and then yearlings coming off grass there, and later in the summer, all record highs. And then I for one did not expect to be seeing record high prices here going into the winter. I did not expect to see that the year close out with all-time record high prices, but I was wrong. I never said that it wouldn't happen, but I don't think anybody else really expected it this time of year. But these tight runs, tight supplies of cattle at all classes is just causing that. And we've been talking about tight numbers of cattle, our cow herd, our calf crop, everything. It's finally catching up. And so we're seeing that come to a head right now. Now, if you wanted to buy some cattle that might make some money, you know, I'm always talking about the record high prices, and that's exactly why I give you some prices of put together cattle in Central Texas, Central and Northern Texas, from a buddy Ellison Carter Cattle Company there. They work about 50 different sales, mostly all right there in Central and Northern Texas. And if you order some cattle from him, he'll send them to you. And these are delivered prices for cattle that he sold us last week and shipped last week. He sent those to me. I'm going to share them with you. This is an idea of what you could buy some put together cattle for. You got to be a cowboy. You got to know what you're doing. You're going to have to straighten them up. You're going to have to keep an eye on them for a while. But once you get them straightened out, I mean, it's a hell of a good investment. And these cattle are at some prices that are a lot more reasonable than what we've seen. But he shipped some steers. A load of steers weighed 314. There'd be steers and bulls on them. 314 on the average at a delivered cost of $359, and mostly delivered in western Oklahoma and the Texas Panhandle from Santo, Texas, which is near Weatherford, just south of Fort Worth there. A group of 316-pound steers delivered locally for $338, so it was a little bit cheaper there. A load weighed 372 at $356. A load weighed 395 that was on the plain side at $301. 423 pounders at $327. 482 pound steers at $289. These are all delivered prices, guys. Some plainer steers at $492 at $266. Now you see everybody wants 5 weights. Had a load of steers and bulls at 521 pounds delivered at $311. That was higher than the 4 weights. Everybody wants the 5 weights. Load average 569 at $270, starting to come back a little bit now. 589 pounders at $257, 628 pounders at $237, and a load of steers weighed 736, feeder steers at $241. Now look at the heifers. A load of heifers weighed 323 at $330, group at $393, delivered for $311. Load weighed 422 at $295, 486 at $264. Some fancy steers, be all blacks, 521 pounds at $273 delivered. Some plainer heifers weighed 566 at $229, and a load of heifers weighed 615 at $242. If you want to talk to Ellison or one of his boys, check them out at EllisonCarterCattle.com. Now let's talk about the big holiday bred cow and heifer special at Bassett Livestock Auction in Bassett, Nebraska. I told you there'll be several opportunities to buy replacements over the holidays here, because guys know you want to buy them right before the end of the year. You can take them off your taxes there. But if you want the best in the world, you might as well go to the Sand Hills of Nebraska. That's where they raise the best in the world, and that's the kind of replacements they will have here. They're going to have 3,300 head of female replacements, guys. They've got 9 different dispersals. Some of them are complete dispersals, and some of them are just age dispersals where, you know, they get rid of everything over 5 or 7 years, something like that. They've got included in there 700 bred heifers, as fancy as you'll find anywhere, and everything done absolutely right. You'll be able to see that sale if you go to Bassett Livestock Auction, Bassett, Nebraska, or get on to DVAuction.com. It's going to be this Wednesday, December the 18th, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. It'll be pretty impressive, guys. Let's talk about your board for last week. December live cattle futures. Monday was up 42 cents. Tuesday was up 205. Wednesday up 240. That's when they were gaining all the ground in the fat cattle market in the northern plains and the Midwest. Thursday was down 12 cents. Friday up another 152, just trying to keep up there. It is the December spot month, so December live cattle futures ended the week at 193.65, just under where our weighted average is going to be for last week. But that was $6.28 higher for the week. Very impressive. How about February live cattle ended the week at 192.02. That was up 5.85. January feeder cattle started the week out on Monday down just 2 cents. Tuesday was up 152. Wednesday up 172, just kind of following the live cattle contracts. But Thursday and Friday were each down 70 cents. So January feeder cattle ended the week at 257.65, about $5 under where our index levels are for cash prices. So, you know, but it's January, it's a January contract, so we're in a bastard month there. But ending at 257.65, that was up just $1.83 for the week. March ended the week at 257.67. That was up $3 smooth from a week ago at the end of the week. Your grains, March corn ended the week at 442. That was up 2 cents a bushel. January beans ended the week at 9.88 1/4. That was down 5.5 cents a bushel. Hard red winter wheat for March ended the week at 5.57. That was up 3 1/4. Your fat cattle trade brought to you by Legacy Beef Cooperative, guys. Check into that. If you want to make an investment, gives you an opportunity each share you buy to market a fat steer heifer there when they get that plant completed, and it is going to be sold off of the wholesale beef price, not the cattle price. So that'll be interesting, and I think it'll be a good way to do it. Fat cattle trade last week through Thursday, 58,400 head negotiated cash. That's not terrible, but it's not nothing like what we'd like. Of course, they don't hardly sell anything in the southern plains. So, but the northern plains and the Midwest are holding up their end, especially on the gains. Like I said, they gained $3 to $5, mostly selling at 195 and 3 to 305 dressed, while the southern plains only managed about $1 out of their gains last week at mostly 191. The only time we saw any gains, we saw a little bit more gain in the southern plains, was through the Fed cattle exchange from central stockyards. But live prices of fat steers and heifers up through Thursday of last week ranged from 188 to 196 with a weighted average of 194.31. That was up 341 for the week compared to the previous week's end. But this is just up through Thursday, a little bit more Friday I'm going to tell you about, and then we'll get the total wrap up on our next visit. But dress sales range from 302 to 312 with the weighted average on dress steers in the 5 area at 303.40 up through Thursday. That was up 619 for the week. Don't see gains like that on your weighted averages very often, guys. But then we had some more to put on this for the week on Friday. Iowa sold 600 head on Friday, 31,000 for the week. I mean, Iowa has been shucking these things in a negotiated cash manner. You see, and people that love these AMAs, these alternative marketing agreements, will tell you that's the only way you can get paid for your high quality cattle is if you join one of these formulas or one of these AMAs or some kind of a sweetheart deal. Iowa's got the best cattle in the world, fat. And they're selling a larger percentage of them in a negotiated cash basis. Do you think they're doing that because they want to get a lower price? Hell no, they want the leverage so when they get an opportunity like they did last week, they can gain $5. But 600 head last week on Friday, 31,000 for the week. Very impressive for just your Iowa feeding region there. But live prices on Friday were 195 to 196. That's how you get market, is you have leverage because you got to trade them that way, guys. Dressed trade in Iowa on Friday at 305. Nebraska sold 2,400 on Friday, 22,400, which is about right for them, maybe just a little bit light. And 195 is a live price on Friday. Kansas sold 400. 7,100 is all in Kansas for the week, and they sold cattle mostly at 192 on Friday. Of course, there was only 400 head, but they had a few deals at 195, which is the highest by far we saw in the Southern Plains. Texas didn't trade any cattle on Friday, sold only 1,257 head in a negotiated manner all week last week, and most all of them were on the Fed Cattle Exchange online marketing console there. And you know, when you're not selling any more cattle than that, there's no way you're going to get any bigger price unless you get on the Fed Cattle Exchange and you get some competition. And they did sell more cattle at 192 than Kansas did, I believe. Box beef cutout values gained quite a bit of ground last week. Choice cuts, your average, weighted average on all of last week's choice cuts, 313.75. That was up 334 compared to the previous week's weighted average. And your late Friday sales were well over $4 more than that at 316.39 on Friday afternoon. Your weighted average on all of select sales last week was up 352 compared to the previous week's weighted average at 280.29. And your late Friday sales on selects were more than $3.50 higher at 283.86. So a pretty impressive wholesale beef market there. Choice select spread on the weighted average was almost 33.50 there, and all of that based on 587 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Your slaughter last week, 609,000 estimated for cattle. That was 5,000 less than the previous week. 38,000 head less than the same week a year ago, which typically is a pretty big week leading up into the holidays where we know we're going to have abbreviated schedules. Talk about what else is going on. If you enjoy listening about the cattle markets here and watching the feeder flash, but you're not seeing it as often as you would like, just get your phone out right now and put in 209 Corbett or 209-267-2488 and then text the word flash to that number. You'll automatically be signed up. It won't cost you any more than text fees, which hardly anybody pays anymore. But the link to this report will be sent to you every business day that it's put out, and you'll have it right there, guys. Talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DVAuction, based on an 800-pound cash auction steer, 7-day moving average, just like your CME feeder cattle index, running from 7 to 899 pounds up through your middle 12 states. It ended the week at 262.08 after hitting some record highs for your real-time index earlier in the middle of the week. But 262.08 ending the week was $1.31 higher for the week. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index was near a record for them, 262.59. Cash feeders in your sale barns last week ended the week kind of steady to $3 higher after opening the week very uneven to lower. After those crazy prices that I talked about earlier, especially on Pee-wee stockers, your cash markets opened the week very uneven and lower. I don't know if there was some ass eatings give out or people just kind of looked and pondered about what they gave for some of those cattle that previous week. But starting out on Monday, some of them were holding their buyer's cards a lot closer to their vest. Some of them weren't getting quite so wild. But then as we moved on through the week, especially up in the northern plains on some of those fancy long-time weaned calves, we started seeing record high prices again. But we ended up gaining some ground after all that upheaval there starting the week. But over the weekend or late last week, one of your most impressive sales, or the most impressive sale, was Fort Pierre Livestock Auction, Fort Pierre, South Dakota. They had their last sale for the year. They had 8,100 head there on Friday. Most of the calves sold $6 to $10 higher, and it was an impressive sale. But they had cattle of all different levels. Some were long time weaned, Some were short weaned. They had some that were still ballers. The market reporter there, noted that they even had some cattle hadn't been touched at all. Maybe even the bulls still intact. Of course, they're going to be selling at a discount. But these prices I'm going to give you. Fort Pierre was your National Beef Wire stick-out sale of the day. These include all the cattle there. But 480 head of 4-weight steers in Fort Pierre on Friday averaged 461 with a weighted average price of $389.73. Pretty impressive. 1,292 head of 5-weight steers in Fort Pierre averaged 565 at $345.32 on the weighted average, weighing well over 5.5, and $345.32 is a weighted average price on all of them, almost 1,300. Wow. How about 1,190 head of 6-weight steers, average 648, weighted average price on all of them, $323.47. 665 head of 7-weight steer calves and Fort Pierre, average 754, weighted average price $294.18. How about the heifers? 1,156 head of 4-weight heifers, average 464 at $342.69. Heifers. 663 head of 5-weight feeder heifers, average 532, or stockers, I guess, at $323.13. Okay, the 5-weight heifers to be turned out, $323.13. Now the ones bought for replacement, there was nearly as many, 546 out of them. They averaged 560 with a weighted average price of $341.20. So almost $20 difference on those fancier ones people were buying for replacements. And our herd rebuilding has begun, guys. How about 353 head of 6-weight heifer calves in Fort Pierre, average 641 at $289.33. Very impressive sale. How about some individual quotes? Winter livestock auction in Winter, South Dakota. My buddy Nick Hayes and company there. That was the first day that DVAuction had ever broadcasted their sale, but you can watch all their sales at DVAuction.com going forward now. But very impressive sale on Friday. They sell 82 steers, weighed 772 at $279. And you got to be thinking, even though they're weighing nearly 8, they're probably going to be turned out for a while to cheapen them up. How about Eastern Missouri Commission Company in Bowling Green, Missouri? Been with DVAuction forever. Impressive sale on Friday, including 75 steers weighed 668 and bring 311 in Bowling Green, Missouri. That is Eastern Missouri, just back this way or back west of the Illinois line there. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere late last week or over the weekend, and your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day, indeed come out of Fort Pierre Livestock Auction, Fort Pierre, South Dakota. 86 steers weighed 725 at $312.50. That's your feeder flash for Monday.